Kamala Harris is literally the worst vice president in the history of the United States. NBC News reported on Monday that Vice President Kamala Harris has the dubious distinction of having the lowest net negative rating of modern vice presidents in the history of their polling. According to a new NBC News poll, only 32% of registered voters have a positive view of Harris, compared to 49% with a negative view, including 39% with a very negative view. This leaves Harris with a net negative 17 rating, which NBC News noted is the lowest for any vice president in the poll's history. Harris's negative 17 net rating lined up against the last four vice presidents during their 10 years, with Mike Pence negative 4 in October of 2019, Joe Biden plus 1 in December of 2010, Dick Cheney plus 23 in May of 2003, and Al Gore plus 15 in March of 1995. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, what's even more alarming is the fact that Kamala is in complete denial of her negative ratings.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. I'm curious how much of a role, if any, that you feel race and gender play in that.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings. I think the point that has to be made is that there are attempts to create distractions away from the accomplishments of our administration. We've created over 13 million jobs since we've been in office. Joe Biden and I have been responsible for 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in the United States, not to mention what we have done to restore America's integrity on the international stage.
There are absolutely no polls that exist which shows Kamala Harris having a positive approval rating. Her approval rating has been in the dumpster since almost the beginning of Biden's presidency, and it's her denial of this fact that truly exposes that not only Kamala but the Biden administration as a whole does not care about the American people, let alone Black America. The Biden administration's refusal to take accountability for its shortcomings, particularly concerning the Black community, is astonishing. Here's a few questions for you. Whatever happened to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? You know, the bill that Biden and Harris were dangling in the face of Black America back in 2020. Whatever happened to the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act? Now, I know many of you are tempted to just simply blame it on the Republicans that they didn't pass, but we're going to prove that excuse to be a lie in just a moment. But first, I want to get back around to these bills concerning the fact that these are just your simple run-of-the-mill bills here, okay? So let's not be fooled. That's all they are, nothing more, nothing less. Just simple, generic reform bills. You see, where the trick lies is that if you name the bill after a somewhat famous or prominent Black person, then that will make Black America feel like the Democrats are doing something specifically for them when they're not. It's like if I were in Congress and introduced a Medicare for All bill, but instead of calling it the H.R. 15 Medicare Reform Act, I called it the Dr. Sebi Justice and Medicine Act. That is an insult to the intelligence of all Black Americans. As a matter of fact, I'll give you the perfect equivalence of what this actually is. Remember when you were kids playing Sega Genesis and your little brother or little sister wanted to play too? So what you do is hand them the second player controller, but what they don't realize is that the controller isn't even plugged in, and the whole time that they're sitting next to you, they think that they're playing the game when in actuality, they're doing nothing. This is literally the Black political experience in a nutshell. We're just here, but we're not really playing the game. That's why even in victory, you still win nothing, because you were never really playing to begin with. But I digress. Now, going back to the main point once again, Kamala's denial is indicative of the Biden administration's view on the American people, and to be more specific, the Black community. They just simply don't care. Now, let's take a look at the excuses that the Democratic news network CNN had for why Kamala's approval ratings are so low.
I think that this is happening for a couple of reasons. Most people don't know what vice presidents do. And now she is a history maker. She is a woman, she is a Black woman, and it's the easy thing to do to say she's the attack dog, go after her. She was not put in charge of the border. She was put in charge of the root causes and going down to Central and South America to discuss what is happening. And numbers have shown the border, everyone admits our immigration policies are in crisis. It's not because of Kamala Harris. It's because we have not been able to find bipartisan reform.
That's a lie. During the first 2 years of Biden's presidency, the Democrats had control of the House and the Senate. They could have done whatever they wanted to, but chose not to. And now let me also just take a moment to read from the Wikipedia page of the 117th United States Congress. The new senators were sworn into office by Vice President Kamala Harris just hours after her own inauguration, with Harris serving as the tiebreaker in her constitutional role as president of the Senate. Democrats gained control of the Senate and thereby full control of Congress for the first time since the 111th Congress ended in 2011. Additionally, with the inauguration of Joe Biden as president that same day, Democrats assumed control of the executive branch as well, attaining an overall federal government trifecta, also the first time since the 111th Congress. So once again, there's literally no excuse why the Biden administration wasn't able to handle these things, whether we're talking about meaningful legislation concerning the border, or if we're talking about the George Floyd bill or the voting rights bill. It doesn't matter what we're discussing here. There is literally no excuse for why they couldn't get these things done. They simply chose not to. And now also, before we carry on, please do not let anyone lie to you and say that Wikipedia is not credible. Because when it comes to high-ranking government officials like the president and vice president, or official information concerning Congress or any other branch of the United States federal government, it is borderline impossible to make any changes to these Wikipedia pages. Now, when it comes to your favorite YouTuber's wiki page, that's a different story. But when we're talking about the Wikipedia page of high-ranking United States government officials or branches of the federal government, good luck with changing any of that information on there, because it's not happening.
We all know the election, our voting systems are broke. We have a president who won't even, or a former president who won't even acknowledge that he lost the election. That's not because of Kamala Harris.
My God, it is amazing how these people can always find a way to put Donald Trump's name into something. He has nothing to do with Kamala Harris's low approval rating, but if you let CNN tell it, blame it on Trump.
But my final point will be, she is taking it outside of Washington, D.C. She is done with us, the pundits, and she's going to the people who will actually elect her. She's talking about the issues that women care about, abortion. She's talking about, I'm not going to debate Ron DeSantis on slavery. There is no debate there. And I appreciate it. And I think you will see her numbers start to increase and people will be accepting her of the job.
All I hear is excuses and no accountability. And you wonder why, according to the new reports, Black Americans are considering not showing up to the polls for Biden in 2024. All the Democrats ever have for Black Americans is excuses and Republican fear-mongering. And with that, the question then becomes, how much longer will Black America accept such a weak campaign strategy to get your vote? That's the question. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you